Welcome back to another video. As you can see by the light shining on the side of my face here, we are kind of at the end of the day here. I just snuck out on the water for maybe like 1 or 2 hours of fishing. I figured while I'm out here, why not try and get a video shot as well. So we're actually pre-fishing right now for a tournament, and I'm gonna see if I can catch like 1 or 2 fish. I'm gonna look around a little bit and see if I can track down some fish for tomorrow. But I'm also gonna share a few tips that'll help you catch fish right now. We're sort of in that late summer, early fall period, and I'm gonna run through a few tips while I'm pre-fishing. All right, so tip number 1 is as soon as you get out on the water, you need to be paying attention to your surroundings and everything that's going on. The first thing I like to look at is water temperature. What I'm seeing right now in my graph is 73 degrees, and for me, that's pretty darn warm for being a little bit into September like we are already right now. To me, this month and this time of year is kind of like a transition period as the fish kind of transition from late summer patterns into fall patterns. And at that water temperature, it tells me that they probably have not gotten too far. Right now, I am kind of scanning around up on a hump, and I'm not seeing fish out deep right now. And you will find fish out deep on some of these deep humps, sort of into, during summer, but where they really start to congregate out deep like that is in fall. And that's like one of my favorite bites. I like to go out there, pop them with puppet minnows, stuff like that, maybe rig them with big minnows. But that bite is not happening today on this particular lake. You might come out here in a few days and they might be out here. But the reason why I check this spot, even though water temps are still a little bit high, is because these spots are really easy to check very quickly. Because oftentimes if you're talking about humps, they're a little bit smaller, you can cover water, you can see if there's anything on there real quick. I'm seeing a lot of bait, but I'm not seeing any walleyes, so I'm gonna move on. Another thing that I like to look at water clarity. You know, if there's been wind recently, sometimes the wind can set up fish on different spots or on different sides of the lake, so pay attention to recent weather as well. Another thing to think about is when are you going out? So right now I have probably 45 minutes of sun, maybe an hour of sun, and that's gonna impact where the fish are as well. Typically, you know, when you're talking summer walleyes or even early fall walleyes before they really start to put on the feed bag in fall, the bite can be a little bit tougher during the daytime. So sneaking out for that last hour or 2 of light can sometimes be the best way to put the odds in your favor. But anyway, I'm going to continue to look, and when I find some fish, I'll catch back up with you. All right, we got one here. The sun is starting to sneak its way down. And what do we got? That's a walleye. I don't know why I didn't reach for the net there, but let's see if I can show them to you here. A nice walleye right there on the crawler. I'm gonna get him back real quick, and then I'm gonna talk to you. All right, so that last fish right there just took a crawler on a drop shot, and that's a presentation that we have been using a decent amount this summer. And what was interesting about that particular fish is right now the calendar would say that the fish should be moving out a little bit deeper. And actually, before I got to this particular spot, I went out and I looked at some of the deeper humps, and alas, the fish were not there. So where do I go if I'm not finding them deep? I'll bump up shallow. And some of the best spots, like throughout summer and into late summer and stuff like that, is kind of just beyond those weed lines and sort of the kind of flat areas in that 16 to 22-ish range. That's where we're finding a lot of walleyes this time of year. And ideally, you know, as we get deeper into fall, you can find them in deeper water and you can catch them with puppet minnows, and that bite can get really, really hot. But as of right now, the fish have not bumped out yet. So when you go out in the water, you need to assess the situation, look what you have going on right now. water temperatures are actually still quite high. And just because the calendar says early fall doesn't mean that that's the case. Truly right now, despite the fact that it was really cold yesterday, realistically we're still in late summer. So when you're in this transition period, just pay attention to the conditions, pay attention to water temperature, and most importantly, pay attention to what you're seeing on your graph, because when I was looking out deep, I was not seeing fish. There was actually tons and tons of bait out there, which would tell me that the fish will be out there soon, but they weren't out there yet. So I've resorted to some of these kind of late summer spots, and you know, so far the fish have been chewing. Alrighty, so I just moved to a different spot. And the reason why I moved is because there were fish in that last spot, and we have a tournament tomorrow, and I don't want to beat them up, and I don't want anybody to see us catch a bunch of fish. So that's also the reason why I didn't net that fish, but we're in a different spot. And the lesson in that is, you know, once you've found fish and you caught them somewhere, and let's say you catch a few and you can't get any more fish to bite, one thing that I like to do is analyze the type of spot that I am fishing and try and replicate that pattern somewhere else on the lake. Now, that last particular spot, we actually caught fish in sort of a saddle area, and there's really only a couple other areas in the lake that look just like that spot. And what was unique about that spot was the fact that there were the shallower areas up on either side, and then you kind of had the slightly deeper saddle that was surrounded by deeper water on either side, but the saddle didn't have weeds on it, and the higher humps on either side of it, the points on either side, did have weeds. And this spot, that particular type of spot, is somewhat rare on this lake. So I know a couple spots like it. I'm gonna fish them this evening. We don't have a ton of light left, but hopefully catch a few more fish. But that's the next big tip I can give you, is once you figure out the kind of stuff that those fish are on, you gotta find other stuff that's just like this. So for me, I'm gonna be running saddles the rest of the evening, just because I found them there, or stuff kind of like that, you know, in, like, I caught that fish, it was probably in about 18 foot of water on the outside of weeds. You know, if I find a good area that I think looks somewhat similar to that, I'll probably find walleyes there, truth be told. And you know, it's kind of the same thing if you find fish out on deeper points, like, and you catch a couple, like, try other deeper points in the area. And you just got to look at the characteristics of the spot you're fishing. You know, maybe it's a point that slowly tapers out at the end from 20 to 30 feet, and it's adjacent to deep water. You know, if you can find 4 or 5 more spots like that on the lake, you're probably gonna find more fish. Same goes with humps, same goes with flats, same goes with, you know, interesting looking weed covers. So that is my next tip for you. Now let's talk a little bit about lures and presentations. And honestly, truth be told, this time of year can be a little bit frustrating, because I just have to have a bunch of different things tied up, because you never know what they're gonna be going on, because it might be late summer presentations, it might be fall presentations. I got a ton of stuff tied up. I have rigs. You might be rigging with big minnows this time of year. You might be tossing jigs. As we've started to use live sonar more and more, taking a simple jig with like a crawler or a minnow, like a sucker minnow or something like that, or a fancier minnow if you can get your hands on it, that can be really effective. I love this deep V right here in gold. This is a super cool color, and it goes great with worms in particular, night crawlers. But jigging can come into play, like I said, when you're target fishing, or when you're fishing around weeds, or casting at suspended fish. Rigging, of course, rigging with big minnows, like I said before. Puppet minnows, these horizontal glide baits can be really big this time of year. I got a bunch of different colors in here, just depending on where I'm fishing, or if we tend to find some sort of color pattern. But these baits can be super killer, especially when you're fishing in areas that are a little bit deeper, like 20 plus feet of water. I like to pitch them out away from the boat when I'm fishing like weed lines and stuff like that, and you rip it, rip it, and they fall fast, and they work really good with forward-facing sonar because they fall so quickly. You can line up the transducer and drop it on their heads, but even without that, it's really effective. If you're fishing a little bit deeper, like out on like super deep points or deep humps, as those fish start to push out into deep water into fall as the water temperatures drop, you know, you can fish these directly underneath the boat to great effect. This is a really cool color right here, Purple Wonder. It's got the purple and the Wonder Bread colors on it. So that is a tactic that I'm using all the time. And bobbers. Some people like to use bobbers in spring, some people like to use them in summer, but they can be really good right now, which is kind of in between summer and fall. But as we get into fall, don't put the bobbers away. You know, a lot of people like to rig. I like to rig as well. But one thing that's cool about bobbers is you can take the minnow and you can cast it out away from the boat, and it's kind of like rigging except for the fish, except for you don't have to drive on top of the fish. So something to consider. I will use bobbers in fall as we progress deeper into the season here. Let's see here. Drop shot. Drop shots are great. They work. One thing that's cool about drop shots is they work shallow, deep, and in between. So that's why they got so popular in bass fishing, because it's a finessey tactic that can be used literally anywhere. You know, right now you can see I got like 1.5 feet of, I don't know if you'd call it like a leader length or dropper length from the hook down to the weight. And that's just kind of a good universal length. But with that being said, you can vary this length quite a bit, and you can fish this in really shallow water if you go with a shallower leader. So that can be really good in spring or in fall when the fish start to push up shallower. Or you can have a really long leader, and that's just a good tactic for fishing in deep water. You can fish it in 30 feet, and you can put a nice heavy weight on the bottom and get the bait down quickly. So if you have a drop shot tied up, it doesn't matter if you find them out in the humps or if you find them up shallow around weeds or like a shallow feeding flat or anything like that. You'll be ready to go. So there's actually more that I'm probably not thinking of, but those are just a few of the presentations that I'm using this time of year. And the hard part is you don't know what the heck they're gonna bite on until you go out and you start casting, just because you know, this is truly a transition period. And I got night crawlers. I don't have any leeches because I wasn't able to find any good sized leeches, but I've also got minnows as well. So you're gonna wanna bring all types of bait with you, because I can tell you for a fact there will be some days where they will bite night crawlers, but they won't touch minnows. So you won't be able to keep minnows alive, or vice versa. All these different things as far as just the fish's preferences. So come out ready to do just about anything on the presentation side this time of year. All right, so what I think is gonna happen right now is I think I'm gonna put the cameras away. I'm gonna focus on finding some more fish for tomorrow's tournament. We did find a good school of fish out on that particular saddle that we talked about ad nauseum earlier in this video. And we kind of left those fish alone, but I want to find some more spots like that, or maybe some spots that are a little bit different that we can use tomorrow. So I'm going to wrap this video up right here. Hopefully there were some tidbits here that you're able to use and help you catch more fish during this kind of transition-y sort of period. But yeah, thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video. I really do appreciate it immensely. And yeah, we're gonna wrap this thing up right here. We'll see you in the next one.